Hey y'all! Alright, we're gonna wait another minute for some of our friends to get here and for our special guest. Once again, I'd like to apologize for the technical difficulties we had last time. I do believe they've been resolved and we are all set to go. Alright, so y'all know the drill. Before I get started today, I am going to give us a little bit of background information about what our topic is today. Alright, so hey y'all, my name is Kelsey and welcome to the third episode of Conversations with Kelsey for Our Common Good. We here at For Our Common Good are committed to boosting the voices of small local nonprofits. We believe in making change through spotlighting community-based nonprofits across the country and providing our support by spreading awareness. Advocacy for a wide range of issues is important now more than ever, and For Our Common Good is ready to do our part. Today, our focus is on at-risk youth. Today, For Our Common Good has the privilege of sitting down with Suib, Executive Director of New Avenues for Youth. New Avenues for Youth began operation in 1997 and has been serving at-risk youth in Portland ever since. New Avenues for Youth focuses on at-risk youth and offers several programs to assist in their mission. We'll talk about how this amazing nonprofit is doing the most to help the most, and now I am going to invite our special guest onto this live. All right. Hello.
Hello.
Hi, I'm so sorry about the technical difficulties we had last time. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing pretty okay. It's been a long day, but we're here to have a good conversation, right?
Oh, yeah, thanks so much.
Okay, yeah, so are you ready to get started?
Yeah, that's great.
Okay. So New Avenues for Youth offers a wide range of extension programs based in education, work experience, supportive housing, and youth counseling, just to name a few. Can you give us a little bit more information about these programs?
Yeah, so actually, I'll just tell you a little bit about the agency. The organization was started 24 years ago because there were a lot of really young kids living on the streets in downtown Portland. And for the first sort of half of the organization's life, we were really focused on that intervention around homelessness. But then we noticed that what housing instability looks like for young people was really starting to change. And so this kind of question came to the organization around how do we get upstream and figure out how young people, what are the experiences that young people are having that lead to them falling into housing instability or homelessness. And so over the last, I'd say, 10 to 15 years, the organization has really broadened and now we're focused on different sort of intersecting populations of at-risk youth, with the connecting tissue being that often without the right supports, they may find themselves homeless. So for example, youth aging out of foster care, there's a huge connection between lived experience in foster care and future homelessness, or youth who identify as LGBTQ, youth who've experienced sexual exploitation or sex trafficking, and then lots of iterations of that kind of fracture or disconnection with family, homes, and systems. And so we serve those populations of youth in a whole variety of ways, like you mentioned: job training, mental health, recovery supports, housing, shelter, all kinds of lots of services that intersect.
That sounds amazing. There are just so many different outlets that you try to find to help as many people as possible. And I know that actually is something we touched on last time, is how much y'all want to go out there and just do whatever you can, however you can, wherever you can, which is so important. So I do have to ask if there's anything that you want to add on in the future, any programs you want to expand, anything you're looking at making, I guess I would say it would make it more impactful. Is there anything like that y'all are looking for right now?
Yeah, so it's an interesting question, and it's one of those things that, and we maybe just started brushing up against this when we were talking last, and it's you think a lot about that idea of like nothing about us without us, and like listening to youth voice, we walk alongside young people, and so the answer is kind of complex in that I think what we want to continue to do as an organization is become better listeners and partners, and have help partner with young people to identify what those things are that are the missing pieces that to have that deeper impact. There are some pieces though that I can talk about. For example, you know, the kinds of things that are happening a lot in urban centers like Portland is that poverty and need is being pushed further and further out. And so nowadays, like housing instability used to be really urban centered in a city, but now it's like a regional issue. And so for us, what that means for our organization is figuring out how to kind of become more flexible in how we deliver services and expand our footprint into places, more rural parts of Multnomah County in Portland or Clackamas County right next door, because the truth is housing instability doesn't know a county line, and it really, you know, so I would say concretely, getting out to where needs are and developing more, you know, it's this the innovation by listening to what young people are saying that they need or want, that is really what I hope to be the future development for the organization.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Being able to just make yourself the most helpful thing wherever you're able to do that, and being able to go out and help people, that's really essential to what y'all are doing in these programs. And so in the same vein as social impact, social change, and trying to just help however you can, how do you feel that nonprofits like New Avenues for Youth are able to impact any type of social change that you're seeing in the Portland, Oregon area?
Wow, it's such a great question. And, you know, I think part of how we impact social change is that often, and I'll focus on, there's a lot of different types of social change, obviously, but I'll focus on social problems. You know, often the people who are most marginalized and most impacted by the things in community and society that aren't working well, those young nonprofits are often that connection point where we sit in relationship to people for whom some of the sort of dominant culture institutions don't work and aren't working well. And so I think that puts us in an important place where we have the ability to uplift voices that are less, that are invisible or unheard, and you know, oftentimes nonprofits also hold power in the community and have access to decision makers and policy makers. That combination of sitting in relationship with people who are most impacted and having access, it's a great axis for influence. The other thing that I say, and I think it's not as often recognized, nonprofits are huge employers. They're a big part of the economy, which means that there's influence, but it also means that the culture, and this is particular to social change, the values and the culture inside a nonprofit, you know, it's a way of spreading culture and values into the community. And impacting lots of people who become part of the community. So I think that relationship is understated often in the impact that we can have.
Absolutely. Something you talked about was essentially a sphere of influence that nonprofits are able to kind of have that hold on a community, to be able to not only go out and help, but also to create change wherever there is that present need. And it reminds me of something I saw whenever I was preparing for this conversation, doing the research and being able to figure out kind of how I wanted to ask some of these questions, was that there was a political candidate who had been coming to one of your soup kitchens for New Avenues for Youth. And so in that, this was a person who was against some of the ways that y'all had been helping at-risk youth, to my understanding, and you use your influence as executive director to be able to have a say in the way that you wanted to be represented, not only as a nonprofit, but as a community-based organization that was trying to help people and trying to spread this sort of awareness. So going from that anecdote, knowing that that was something that was heavy on your heart, being able to have that influence. How do you feel that in the future you'd like to continue to try to create this sphere of influence for New Avenues for Youth?
Yeah, so I think it's a complex question. I think it's really important for nonprofits to go through the process of being clear about what their values are, and then despite the consequences, and there are consequences to funding, which makes your mission possible. That decision that you were talking about it made some people happy and it made some people really unhappy. And I think nonprofit has to lean in. There has to have the courage to lean into the values that you're committed to. And as an organization, I think to your question, I think we, I think it's how to move forward into the future. Doing that is really being authentic, being committed, and frankly, and this is another piece, and I don't know if I'm not sure if this is exactly the question you're asking, but I do think having the support from a board of directors that is aligned with the values of the organization is also really important. I've seen, and I'll say, not just I've seen, in the history of this organization, New Avenues, there was a time where the staff, who tend to be folks who are really close and really identify with the work that we're doing and hold one set of values, and then the board of directors, who are good people and believe in the work but maybe don't hold the same set of values. And then when those kind of conflicts come up, where an organization has to step into a brave position, it can cause a lot of harm. And so I think for our organization, it means really trying to continue to get commitments from the newest employee that comes in the door to the newest board member that joins the board, that this is what we're about, this is what we stand for, and that we're going to live that in practice. And so again, I'm not sure I answered the question that you asked, but I think that's how we're trying to live it here. And I don't want to suggest in any way, shape, or form we're the bravest or we take the strongest stances. I think every day it's really complicated to be in the world right now. And so, but we're really passionate and committed to the work we're doing and to the youth we serve. And I think as a sort of beacon and making sure there's alignment has helped us make some of those tough decisions.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Don't be worried. You absolutely hit that right on the money. It is so important to have that authenticity and bravery. And those were two things that really, from what you just said, kind of caught my attention because, as someone who also works with a nonprofit, being able to be brave, to step out and to have those strong opinions is what truly leads the way for advocacy and awareness. So no matter even if you're just making an Instagram post or if you're going out on the streets and holding up signs and demanding that the system find those ways to make it easier for the people who are struggling the most, then, as long as you do something, that's kind of the bigger point, right? Making sure that you are being authentic and holding those values and going out and actually trying to create some change. And that's exactly what your organization is doing.
And Kelsey, I'll share this too. There are a lot of different kinds of nonprofits, and some nonprofits are really like activist advocacy nonprofits. New Avenues is more of a direct service practice. Our advocacy is often through direct service and practice. And so I can give you like an example of that is foster care transition. So if you are still in foster care when you turn 18, there's different numbers, different studies show that you have a very high chance of experiencing homelessness as a young adult. Our state forever has not done a very, very good job helping those young people get ready. And as an organization, as we started to listen to young people about what they needed, we started to apply that pressure that we're going to start to practice the way that young people are telling us that they need. And it took years and years and years. And now we're about 7 years later, and the state is finally funding and resourcing services in a way that's more developmentally aligned with what young people we're identifying as what they need to be ready. We're far from, there as far as being able to being really good at helping change that trajectory for young people. But I share that just as an example because there are different advocacy models. There's the, I'm going to be in the legislator's office every day with the sign, and we're going to mobilize young people to be there and help elevate their voice. We do that sometimes, but more often than not, it's about listening and trying to live into what it is people need, and then going to the systems that are designed and supposed to support that work and demanding that they support it in the way that it needs to live in the world.
Absolutely. It's so important to recognize that while going out and, truly making those statements is so important, it's also important to be able to have that quiet work, that, you're going out and you're handing out baskets, you're going and you're handing out food and water and things like that, necessities, essentials, you're helping people find homes and jobs. That work is so important. And that's exactly what y'all are doing. Y'all are doing both, and y'all are doing everything that y'all can to do your part. And I think that's why organizations specifically like yours is so admirable, because you're not drawing lines. You're not trying to mark away from what you're doing. You are going out, you are helping everyone in every way that you can, especially the youth of Portland. So another question that I had was, the problems that are being addressed by organizations like New Avenues for Youth are targeting issues that myself, my generation, and every generation after that will be inheriting. So why do you feel that it's important to get young people involved? That was something that you talked about, being able to hear those voices. Why is that important to you?
Well, the older adults that have been at these complex problems for a long time don't seem to be doing such a good job. And I say that half joking, but half not joking. I go back to nothing about us without us. I think adultism and this idea that, adults have all the information they need, you just need to do what it is that we say, it really isn't effectively solving these complex problems. And, young people are sort of at its foundation, there is a belief that we have that young people are brilliant and that they have a lot to offer, and a lot of creativity and flexibility and perspective on the kinds of things that could impact some of these social problems. So the most simplistic answer is that I don't think we can solve these problems unless we have young people involved in many different ways. And again, I'm not going to profess that we're the best at that. I just think we need, one of the ways that we're learning and leading is trying to do more and more centering of that.
I think it's really interesting that you're taking this approach of you want to ensure that what you're doing, the youth who you're also serving, can be a part of the process of going out and making change. From some of the organizations that we've been talking to, we've been doing these conversations with, some of them don't necessarily have as much of a straightforward answer, especially when they're working to serve youth. They're finding it hard to either incorporate youth outside of social media and just handling the new age things. But to say that you're genuinely committed to having youth assist, build, create things within your organization is so important, to be able to pass that down in the future and be able to create something better moving forward. So I do have to ask, how do you feel that your organization, New Avenues for Youth, is taking steps to get this generation involved?
Yeah, it's a great question, and I'm actually going to say, New Avenues, one of the things that happened for our organization that really helped us get better at centering this was, a few years ago, 6 or 7 years ago, there was an amazing LGBTQ specific organization that became part of New Avenues called SMIRC, and I mentioned this because deep in the culture of that little organization that joined our bigger organization was this integrated sense of equity and this integrated sense of centering youth voice and perspective in what they do. and really saw youth as co-partners in, there's a steering committee and co-partners in what activities get facilitated, and what hours get operated, and actually what really what these services look like. And we've tried to learn from that and do more of that. I think places where what we're doing really in our sexual exploitation and trafficking work, they're doing really important work around creating survivor voice and survivor-centered steering of programming in ways that are really important. But also to answer your question more broadly, I think there's another dimension to accessing youth brilliance, which is the dimension of peer supports and peer mentoring. And we have specialized positions where peers and near peers are that first point of relationship building and connecting. And frankly, it's kind of one of the growth edges for the organization. Is I would like to see us really expand and develop more and more of that kind of service, because who is going to be able to relate and connect more to a young person's experience than youth themselves, and who's in a better position to walk alongside and collaborate than someone that is close to that experience. So besides that, I think there's lots of ways for young people to get involved and volunteer in organizations and take leadership positions. One of the real important ones around the issue of homelessness is around ambassadoring the social problem, demystifying for the community, like some of those old beliefs that young people who are experiencing homelessness are just out there having fun, and that it really it's a lifestyle choice, that it's and having young people come in and get educated. And we've had a number of high school groups, for example, come in, get educated, and then go out into the community and play that role of educating their parents and their community about what really is happening and why our community is experiencing homelessness the way they are. So I think there's a lot of different strategies. To the earlier conversation, whenever an organization can empower and help young people lift their voice by talking to legislators, being part of community advisory boards, et cetera, we really take out the middle person, which is like, let influences hear directly from young people about what their needs and experiences are. So I think we just continue to try to do those things when we can. We have, one of the things New Avenues has that I think is kind of cool. We have a couple of social enterprises. One is a Ben & Jerry's ice cream shop and Ben & Jerry's catering and carts, where young people work in those businesses and get job experience, but they also serve as leaders in those businesses, as managers and assistant managers. And we also have a screen printing business called New Avenues Inc., which, shameless plug, anybody can order from, to get all of the kinds of promotional items you get in t-shirts and printing. And again, young people are doing, they're taking on all of those leadership roles and responsibilities, which is great developmental practice as young people transition to adulthood, but it's also a huge asset back to the organization. So there's the learning, and then there's the value back, which are really fun ways to, I think, maximize the impact that young people can have around some of these social problems.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Especially, there was something I did want to bring the conversation back to, something that you brought up a moment ago, which is education. And I think that that truly is the center point of everything about advocacy. It's education, right? That's the thing that creates more basis for advocacy, is being able to teach people about the issues going on in the world, people being able to help others understand. To bring it back especially to the conversation of how youth can get involved, I think that in a certain way, youth have kind of become almost translators of social problems to older generations, being able to explain that, I'm dealing with this, or my friends are dealing with this, and this is what I know about it, this is what I've learned about it from people who are experiencing it right now. And so to be able to spread that, to be able to make that be the point of involvement for youth, and not only for that to be the only point of involvement, to be able to get them involved in things like the things you just mentioned, the Ben and Jerry's initiative, being able to help through printing presses and being able to just build this foundation for being able to spread the message, spread a message about where people are in need the most and how they can be helped in the most productive and effective way. Something that New Avenues for Youth has been doing for so long, for these last 24 years, is being able to make that an effective point, an effective selling point. And so going further with that, where would you recommend starting for the generation of today? Where would you recommend that youth go to actually get their start, whether they're in Portland or not?
Yeah, so it's a great question. I mean, I guess I would say just to answer that, or to get towards answering that, one thing that I find always is helpful here is that I would rather somebody volunteer 1 hour a month for 2 years than volunteer 3 hours a week for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks a month, and then be gone. Right. So I think part of that is what I'm saying is find something you care about and you're passionate about and commit to it. And there's so many different ways to commit to it. Right. So part of it is like reaching out to nonprofits and just say, hey, can I do a tour? I just want to learn more about what you're doing. Hey, I'm a high school student, or would you come in and talk to my class? Worked with a great group of students that were so passionate and active and have done so many drives, but it really just started with, I just want to understand this issue and become educated and then empowered to go out and do things in the world. Volunteering is a great way to get connected. Now, oftentimes youth volunteering for youth programming is tricky. So it sometimes is not as direct service hands-on. So it might mean helping run drives and get resources that programs need versus, and a lot of that often is around just confidentiality, wanting to respect the privacy of young people who have difficult situations and they're engaged in services and might not want, peers who are in the same community of them to have, to peer into their lives that way. So, figuring out some of those things. But, I think, nonprofits are a great way, and most nonprofits are super excited when anybody, but especially young people, reach out and say, I'm passionate about this. Can you find a way to connect with me? Volunteer coordinators at nonprofits tend to be they sit in that magical place where they often have lots of great ideas. And it's like, well, we don't need help with this right now, but here's a bunch of ways that you might be able to plug into this issue. Here's a calendar of things that are happening in the community around this issue. Here's the providers in the community that are doing this work. And, it's a great place to get that kind of initial map of how to proceed.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Being able to just be consistent with volunteering, with wanting to help. I know that with people who I'm connected with, at school in my community, being able to be consistent is helpful for those people who actually need help, who are struggling. So being able to continue with that. And in this conversation, the 3 points that I really think that we've touched on the most are consistency, authenticity, and bravery. And I think that keeping those things in mind, those are the most important aspects of being able to go and do the work that you do. And so once again, I'd like to thank you for having this conversation with us. But I would like to ask if there's anything else that you have to add, and final thoughts that you have.
Well, the only final thought I would say is that, I always want, I want to normalize whatever possible particularly young people's experience around homelessness, and remind folks that young people are growing up with or without organizations like New Avenues. And we know, one of the things we know about growing up is that there are things that when they're in a young person's environment, the more of those protective experiences that a young person has, the better, the more resilient they're going to be, despite the sometimes really horrible things that young people have to experience. And so, it's easy to pathologize someone that you see that is struggling. A different way to look at it is, the more that as a community we can put those protective factors into young people's lives, despite the fact that they may not be there for a variety of reasons naturally, the more likely that young person is going to be resilient, and their trajectory is going to be positive. And we see that over and over and over again. And so, just challenge your thinking about why and how young people are behaving the way they are. And when given the right opportunities and supports, all people choose to thrive. And that's really, really what it comes down to. So that's my soapbox plug. And thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for sitting down with us. This has been an amazing conversation, and I could not agree with you more. And don't feel bad about soapbox moments. We all need them, and that was a pretty good one, so thank you so much. All right, I'm not sure how to kind of carry on from this, but thank you so much once again for sitting down with us, and have an awesome day.
Thank you.
All right. So thank you once again so much, Sean, and to all of you at New Avenues for Youth for all that you do, and thank you for sitting down with us today. I don't know about y'all at home, but I am feeling so inspired to be authentic, be brave, and be productive in going out and helping people. A big thank you to Sean Suib once again, and everyone in New Avenues for Youth for all of your work. Thank you from us at For Our Common Good, and we cannot wait to see what y'all do next. For anyone who's looking for more information about New Avenues for Youth and all of their wonderfully helpful initiatives, you can check out their website at newavenues.org, or you can find them on Instagram at New Avs for Youth. Once again, that is New AVES, the number 4, Youth. Thank you so much to everyone who tuned in, and don't forget to bring your polling trays right here for the next Conversations with Kelsey when we have that information posted on our Instagram. Be sure to support For Our Common Good on our website and on our Instagram whenever you get the chance. Thank y'all once again. My name is Kelsey Niet, and this has been Conversations with Kelsey. Hope y'all have an awesome day. Bye, y'all.